Hi everyone, today I'll be sharing with you my tips and tricks on how I manage to make my sourdough bread weekly as a full-time working mom. This will be an updated and improved version of my recipe where I will share how I make it and with actual timestamps of what time I take out the sourdough starter and all of that, how I bake it and store it so that my family has the most delicious bread each week. If you're new here, hi, my name is Sonia and this channel is all about how I manage to take care of my family. As a busy working mom, I share delicious recipes, holiday inspirations, and general tips and tricks on how to manage the many things that we have on our plates. And if you enjoy this type of content, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. Now let's roll up our sleeves and let's get prepping. Because I want to bake my sourdough bread on Thursday night, I start the whole process on Wednesday morning. I go into my refrigerator and take out my sourdough starter. And to prevent waste and too much discard, I add flour to the top to avoid too many feeds, which I'll talk about more later on in the video. I measure out the amount of starter that I have and feed it so that it is nice and active. As you see, I have 100 grams of starter here. I zero out the scale and add in 100 grams of water. An extra gram or two won't make a huge difference, so that's okay. I remove it from the scale, use a spoon, and mix everything very rigorously to incorporate the starter and the water together. I know some people may ask me what kind of water I use. I have a filter in my home and I just use that water. It is regular, I guess lukewarm to coldish water. Don't use hot because it will destroy the yeast, but you can definitely just use the bottled water or a filtered bottle of water that you have in your home. Place the container back onto the scale now and add in 100 grams of bread flour. I find that this is the best flour to use for this specific recipe. Make sure that it is unbleached and unprocessed in that sense. Bleaching of the flour will definitely affect the sourdough bread. As you'll see, it won't rise, it won't do well. So just make sure that the bread flour that you use says that it's unbleached for the most optimal outcome. That everything is mixed, I cover the container loosely with the lid and place it on the side to become active. For me, this usually takes 3 to 6 hours while I'm at work. When I return home from work, the starter has doubled in size and is looking absolutely great. Check out the description box to see 2 different timestamp versions for making the sourdough bread, and also check out the description for the recipe Per Loaf. It'll all be written out over there. Now that the sourdough starter is all nice and active, it is time to make our loaves of bread. I'm going to be making 2 loaves simultaneously in this container right now. But again, check out the description box for the recipe for each individual loaf. So I take out my glass bowl, place it onto my scale, zero the scale out, and add in 750 grams of water. So that'll be 375 grams of water per loaf. But because I'm making 2, so I'm doubling the recipe and I'm placing in 750 grams of filtered water here. If you make an error just like I did, I use a scooper and scoop out any of the excess water. Zero out the scale again and add in 100 grams of starter per loaf. So again, because I'm making 2 loaves here, I'm going to be using 200 grams of starter in this recipe. As you'll see, my container with the starter is going to be very bare. There's almost no starter left in there, but that is completely okay. Even though that there's a little coating of the starter, it is absolutely enough to regenerate everything, and I'll show you how I do that later on. Zero out the scale and add in 12 grams of salt per loaf. So because I'm going to be using this recipe for 2 loaves, I'm going to be adding in 24 grams of salt and mix everything vigorously to combine. Zero out the scale again and add in 500 grams of bread flour per loaf. So because I'm going to be making 2 loaves, I'm adding in 1,000 grams of bread flour. Remove it from the scale and mix everything really well with a Danish whisk. The goal here is just to incorporate all of the flour into the actual dough and not to leave out any of it so there's no dry bits left. You're going to see it look like a shaggy mess, and that is totally okay. Once everything is mixed, I cover this glass bowl with a lid. I love this Pyrex bowl because it just has a lid. I don't have to use any like plastic and stuff like that. But you can definitely just add a plastic bag over it and that is fine. Now back to the starter that we had left over. All I do is take a scoop of flour, just drape it all on the outside and cover the entire surface of it. This way I don't have to have excess amount of feeds. It's going to just take the flour when it needs it, when it's hungry, and be able to stay active like that. I place it in the fridge until next week when I'll be using it. So that's just a tip for you. I place my timer on for 30 minutes so that I can wait for the gluten to develop in the sourdough bread. 30 minutes have passed and now I'm going to be dipping my fingers into the water and doing stretch and folds on the dough. Only 30 minutes have passed and you can definitely see a huge difference in the dough. It's more elastic and it comes together so much more nicely. I cover it with a lid again and put on my timer for 30 minutes. Now at 8:30, after 30 minutes, I dip my fingers into the water again and do another stretch and fold. So this is the second stretch and fold that we are doing on the sourdough bread. And each time you do it, the dough will get even more amazing and stretchy and have a lot more structure to it. Cover the lid again and place your timer for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, so it's 9 o'clock now, I dip my fingers into the water and do the last stretch and fold. At this point, we are done with our stretch and folds. I cover my lid, place the timer on for 30 minutes, and now we're going to be doing something called coil folds, which I've implemented for a few months now, and I see a huge difference in the crumb of the sourdough and in the way that it rises. And all you do differently is you do the folding on the bottom of it, so you literally lift up the dough on all 4 sides and allow the excess dough to fall right under. Cover it again and place the timer on for 30 minutes, and we do this 3 times as well. This is the last coil fold, and as you see, the dough is already looking very puffy, very elastic, very just full of air and light. So after we do this coil fold, I'll be closing the lid once more and letting that sit out on the counter overnight for between 6 to 8 hours. When I wake up on Thursday morning, this is the beauty that I see. It has risen substantially, and I'm going to basically just take it out and place it onto my counter and divide the dough into 2. I get my Bannetons ready, and I started to use rice flour. So many of you here after my first video have recommended rice flour to prevent the dough from sticking to the actual Bannetons and having that beautiful white, I guess, dusting over it. And I am so thankful. It is absolutely the best thing to use, and I'm so happy with it. So I love learning from all of you here just as much as you all learn from me. I actually love working with sourdough. It just has such a nice fluffy feel to it. So as you saw, I divided the dough into two. I just eyeballed it. You can definitely go the extra mile and weigh it out and do a precise cut, but I was totally okay with just eyeballing this part of it. I then do a stretch and fold and making it all into a ball, and I'm going to let that sit out for about 20 minutes. Now that 20 minutes have passed, I fluff out the dough again and make an envelope out of it. So as you see, I'm just smushing it into 3 sections and making it into a log, and then holding the entire thing and rolling it onto itself and just making it really tight for the, I guess, the gluten structure to be really well formed. Make it into a ball once again and place it smooth side down onto the rice floured bannetons. I use the liners from the Bannetons, and I actually use them to cover the top of it, and I prefer it this way. They don't get as dirty. So once the sourdough is in there, I just cover it up that way. I do the exact same thing with the second dough. I fluff it out, fold it into itself 3 times, and then use it like a log and fold it onto itself. Put a little rice flour over the top and place it into the Bannetons. This is all done right before work, so I wake up about 20 minutes or 30 minutes earlier and I do this part. But again, check out the description box if you have a different schedule. Maybe it'll work better for you with your lifestyle. So let me know which schedule would work for you best in the description box below. These Bannetons now go into the refrigerator. So it's Thursday morning. They're going into the refrigerator until Thursday night, and I bake them about 1 hour before I head on off to bed. So this is evening time on Thursday. I'm going to be taking the Bannetons out, placing them on a parchment sheet, flipping them over and making my designs over the top. You can be as elaborate as you would like. Throughout the years of me making sourdough, I've been getting a little bit more creative with it, whereas before it would just be one slit and a few little designs, but now I just enjoy that artistic flair, I guess, and making them into different shapes and sizes. While I'm playing around with the sourdough designs, my cast iron pots are in the oven at 500 degrees, getting all nice and hot. At this point, my Dutch oven is perfectly ready and nice and hot. I'm placing my sourdough bread inside of it, covering it with the lid, putting it into the oven, and setting a timer for 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, I remove the Dutch ovens, take off the lids, and place the bread back inside of the oven, but I decrease the temperature now to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and I place my timer on for another 25 minutes. So I love this new updated version of this recipe. The sourdough just comes out super fluffy, super airy and delicious. and I'm just going to insert a few clips of different designs that a lot of you have requested. So I figured I'll just do a little compilation here in the end of this video of different designs that you may like. If you haven't checked out my very first sourdough bread tutorial and recipe, then definitely check it out for, I guess, a beginner's guide to sourdough. I was actually quite surprised that a few people were a little confused about what sourdough bread is and why I'm making all of these cuts on the bread. They thought it was like a religious thing, but no, it is a well-known recipe. And if you guys enjoy sourdough bread just like we do in our family, then please type into the comments section, I love sourdough bread. And I want to see how many of you have tried these sourdough breads, or how many of you want to start making them in the new year. Let me know in the comments below. I also get a lot of questions as to how I store my sourdough bread after they come out of the oven, and I personally do not put them into any plastic bags or anything of the sort for the first 24 hours of them being cooked and out of the oven. I just feel that that completely changes the texture of the bread, so I just leave them out covered with a towel. If you're curious as to where I got any of my equipment for the actual process of making sourdough, like my layman or lamen, I can never say the proper term for it, the razor that cuts the dough, or the Bannetons, or the whisk, the Danish whisk, I'll have a link to my Amazon storefront where I keep all of the things that you can find in my home. So you can look through that and you'll find everything that I use inside of there. Look at my gorgeous beauties. You guys, if you make sourdough, you know how much pleasure you get out of a successful sourdough because you put so much effort into it. Oh, look at that. Oh, I am very, very proud. I am so happy. It's a labor of love, and I do get so much enjoyment when I make beautiful things and delicious things. So definitely try it out. Just to get, it's like I guess it's like an art, a way of expressing yourself through food. I absolutely love it. I realize with showing you how I make my sourdough bread throughout all of the videos, I've never showed you the actual crumb of my sourdough bread, and it is absolutely amazing. Look at it, look how airy it is and absolutely soft. Thank you guys for watching this video. I still it warms my heart every single time I post and you guys subscribe. It just means so much to me. You will never know. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys make it. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram if you make it. I would love to see your creations. Until next time, happy prepping from my family to yours.